Welcome to the channel, Tribe. This episode is part of our Virtual Meetup series. In this episode, we are having Pramod Kumar talking on transform your automation suite into a testing product.
First of all, hi testers, happy Navratri to all. And it's the second day of Navratri and it is the second virtual conference by Test Tribe. That is a good coincidence. And let's begin with that positivity and let's begin this. So I work as an engineering manager for test engineering in Grofers. Probably I have around 9+ of experience that has spent along with automating, you can say the Windows automating Windows application to web, mobile, microservices, backend services. So I have a bunch of experience working with all these things. And with my experience, just I want to share it with you guys on the basis of the fact that we have from the learnings of the things that we have done in Grofers. So that is the small introduction, and probably with the talk you will get to know me better, and you will be able to know the things better, why you want to transform your test automation into a product, what is its importance. Because usually the main problem in this automation industry, or you can say in test automation, is that none of the organization is able to derive the value out of this test automation. So my focus is how you can derive the value out of test automation, how you can transform into a product. And once you have transformed your test automation into a product, how can it value your organization most? In the journey, I will be telling about the whole journey that we have received from state zero, where we have like zero testing, to the manual testing, to the state where we have the contract testing in the place and we are running our tests as a PR checks, and our master is deployable every time any code is merged in the master branch. So quickly I'm sharing my screen and let's begin with it. Probably if you haven't given your response, you can go to menti.com and just enter the code 7210626 and let me know what sort of your role in your current organization, so that I can structure this talk relative to the audience. So the most number of responses that we got is shown in a bigger text. So senior QA engineer, that is highlighting. There is some performance engineers there, also test manager, test architect, STED2, student, learners. That's great. There is a lot of bunch of people that want to learn. So I guess I'm quickly jumping onto my talk. Cool. So the topic of my talk is how to make your product release process faster by automating testing. Yeah, or you can say that by using test automations. The main thing that you will be learning about how to transform your test automation into a testing product, and it will involve the facts and the learning from the Grofers test automation journey that you will get to know one by one. So let's move forward. Probably this exercise we have done it, and thanks for the responses that we got, and most of the responses that we got we have already discussed. That's great. Keep them coming, and probably you can use the Zoom reaction button to show that what is your mood. You can have like are you feeling good, are you feeling sleepy, or any kind of things. So let's quickly jump to the agenda. The agenda of this talk is how to make your product releases faster. We will be discussing about Grofers automation journey, how to transform your test automation into a testing product, and at the last, like what are the key learnings of that. As I have described, I'm working as an engineering manager for Grofers. The second, I will be more happy to discuss about the second facilitator of this talk is the G-Ship. You can assume your test automation project as a, you can say, a sailing ship, and probably I want to just first going towards the journey and what sort of automation that you have in the place. I quickly want to cover what sort of automation usually we do, or we can say the test automations that are present in the, you can say, our system. One is exploratory testing. Most of us already must have done it some point of time. It does that manually we try to break the things and find more bugs. That is the exploratory testing. Second way, that is the UI automation, where we have mobile automation in the place, and then we have like desktop automation using Cypress, Selenium, whatever tool that you are using. But probably you have seen a man with the tool and to fix the things, because when you talk about the UI automation, usually there is a lot of maintenance that needs to be done. That is depicted here. And the another, you can say, the popular way of test automation that is getting quite popular is API automation, that we will be discussing. But my main focus is to get into this stage, the stage where you can build your test tool, the stage where you have like a test ecosystem in the place, where we have the test that is able to detect the bugs. We are regularly giving that feedback to the product so that they can, or the devs to, they can take the decision whether they want to release the things in the production or not. We have the test analytics in the place. We have the CI pipeline. We optimize the test speed and the stability of our test cases. And we were also focusing about if our test automation suite has find a bug, how can we get to the root cause of that bug so that dev can easily fix that. That comes under the test debugability part. So this is the thing that at the end of this talk, you will be having the more idea and how we have achieved this test ecosystem in the Grofers journey. So let's quickly begin. So this is what I was talking about. You can assume your test automation as a sailing ship, and you can assume the island as a goal. So our goal is to release faster and ensure quality, and the rocks at the bottoms, you can assume it as a blocker that can block this voyage of you reaching to the island. The anchor represents the delay that can cause you to reach the island not on the specified time or the right time. So this is an illustration guide of the journey of test automation in a Grofers, and how we have achieved the things and how we have reached, traveled this journey. So I'm talking about the day zero, when we have, like you can say, no to inadequate testing is in the place, where all the efforts that we have in the test automation, not a test automation, you can say that all the effort that we have in the testing was manual. There was delays, like there was no test case documentation was there. We were doing random manual testing. There was no streamlined QA process. And the biggest risk was slow releases and leakage of the bugs in the production, because as the part of, you can say, DevOps or test engineering is heavily becoming the part of DevOps, and the main thing that the main goal is to how we can release the feature as fast as to the production. That was the goal, and we have to also ensure the quality of it. Because if you have a good product and a good feature developed, but you are not able to release it to the customer, that you are not able to create any value out of it. So it is basically day zero. You can relate it that a man is manually rowing the ship. All the effort is single and manual is there. So let's talk about the problems that we have at the day zero. The biggest problem was that it was the slow releases and ensuring quality. So, some of the problems that I want to discuss in details, that at that point of time when we have a complete manual, if it not many resources, you can say 2 or 3 manual resources that we have in the place. The time taken to release was 2 months. We don't have any defect tracking system for the bugs that are leaked in the production. We don't have any streamlined QA process was there. We have the test documentations, you can say in the Google Sheet, but we don't have the test documentations in a good format so that even manual testers can execute those test cases. There was leakage of bugs in the production. So everyone can relate with the problems that we have in the day zero. All of must have started with that. So the main point was to which problem that we need to pick first and how we can tackle it. That was the first thing when I joined Grofers, that I have to look after it. So probably we have focused for any type of testing. If we want to do it, test case documentation is the first thing that we want to in the place. And first thing that we want to do is that we want to ensure that the quality product is getting released into the productions, and we want to release it faster. So the problem that has been highlighted in the orange color are the problems that we have picked initially. Then the solution that we have come up to tackle these problems with the set of resources that we have in that point of time is to come up with a team solution work. Like first thing that I've talked about is that we need to first solve that we need to have the documentations of our test cases that should be written in a particular format so that everyone can understand it and can execute it. So when I talk about the teamwork, our main goal was that try to include more devs, more product managers, or you can say the business and whole engineering team to help us out with the releasing the feature, to help us out in the testing. That was the initial solution that we have come up with to ensure that we are able to, there is no leakage of bugs in the productions and we want to release faster. So we have solved the problem of test documentations using BDD approach, where we have started writing our test scenarios that are user facing. You can say these were the scenarios of end-to-end user scenarios using BDD approach, that is behavioral driven development. And we have used the tool Cucumber, where we have maintained a Git repo where we were writing our scenarios in a feature file and we were committing them. Because when we talk about the teamwork, it doesn't like that. It has to be organized as well. So we have come up with a project that we called it ATT, and that is called All Team Testing. So before I jump to all team testing and how we were executing that, the main disadvantage of having whole team involved in the testing is that it tends to have the productivity loss of the whole team for 2 to 3 days. So I was talking about the project ATT. ATT abbreviation is stand for all team testing. So the main advantage that we, or you can say the main boost that we get while doing, is that now we are able to release the things faster. We are able to release the features in productions in 1 month. And most importantly, the leakage of the bugs in the production get little bit you can say that it is not that very happy bugs that involve happy path has been leaking into the production. We are able to check these things, and it was a combined team effort. The delay in this process was that it was a relatively complex process, and it involves the, you can say, dependency of the whole team, and the biggest risk was that it tends to decrease the productivity of the team. If I talk about the complexity of this project, it was not that it was a completely manual process. It was a automated process. The process was automated, but the testing, you can say the testing part of it was manual. So what we have come up with is that once we have the test scenario documentations in our features files, we have written the Python script that was scraping the scenarios from those feature files and creating the Jira tickets, and then these scenarios as a Jira tickets has been assigned to different team members, and then they were executing these test cases, and whenever they get any problem, then they were raising the you can say the red flag or any flag. Then someone from the QA team gets back to them and help them to execute that scenario, and in that way we were also optimizing our scenario so that the scenario is you can say understandable to all, and anyone in the engineering team should be able to execute it. As these were the user scenarios, anyone can execute them. So this was a complete process. You can say that first it was like, do you have any task in the place? If you don't have, then you go to the tickets that you have assigned in Jira, whether you are able to understand it or not. If you are able to understand it, if you are not able to understand it, then raise a flag. Somebody from QA team can address you to understand this problem. Once you have understand that scenario, whether you are able to execute it not. If you are not able to execute it, what are the steps that are missing? You can update it on the Jira tickets, or somebody from the QA team can help you to test it. In that way, the whole scenario of you can say the ATT process that we have was working. So in this ATT project that we have initially began, the main problem was that it tends to decrease the productivity of the engineer team, and still we have like process was automated, but the testing part was still manual. That was the biggest risk in this process. I was talking about the productivity loss a lot of time in, you can say before 2 or 3 slides. If you are not able to believe me till now, probably this image will be able to help you that it was literally causing the productivity loss of the engineering team. Then the main you can say the solution that you can come up with is that, like, why not have the test automation in the place? Why not like automate the process? You can not a process like process was automated, why not automate the testing part of it? So as simple as adding the, you can say, automated motor to our sailing ship, that was the thing that comes to our mind. And as we have the Cucumber in the place where we were writing the scenarios, then we have pegged like Java. That was the language that most of the testers were comfortable with it. Selenium was the like open source tool that help us to browse the user actions on the web browsers, and at mobile we have used APM. So we have like used this set of stack to do the UI automation part of it. In this approach of doing the UI automation, or the project that we have taken up, the biggest risk was that upskilling the team, and we need to hire the few people that are skilled at the automation. So now once we have the UI automation in the place, like, so what was the biggest boost that we have got is that yes, we are able to release the new features like at the end of the sprint, or you can say that at the end of each sprint we were able to release the features. But the delays were that these UI test cases were slow, and it's or adding them in your like UI automation suite, or in your test suite, is like it takes time to automate these scenarios, and there is a lot of maintenance that we need to do to maintain the stability of this test automation, because these tests were like very brittle, and the biggest risk was that a lot of false positive was generated. When I talk about the false positive, that means that your test script is getting failed, but you can say that uh, every time it is not that the script got failed and we are able to detect a bug. There were many chances that the DOM element, or you can say that UI of the product has changed and it has break many workflows. So there were a lot of chances where we get a lot of script failures that leads to a lot of false positive was in the place. As you have see, now we have a big sailing ship, but it was not stable, it was wobble, same as that of animation in this UI automation project. So as I talked about the boost that with the UI automation, yes, it was like it was the UI automation suite, and it with the less number of test cases, we were able to achieve more coverage of the feature that we want to test, and yes, we were able to detect the bugs. But the main drawbacks of this project was that still the test execution was slow and they fail too often. So if you, I was talking about the slow test execution to give you just a data that initially when we have around 100 to 150 test cases, it takes around 2 to 3 hours to run these test cases. And when these times grows, these number of test cases grown to like 200 or 300, then the time of execution has increased to you can say that the 4 to 6 hours. Then when we were talking about we started to analyze that why these UI automation test suites is flaky, why it breaks too often. And particularly I want to talk more about the mobile automation, because most of the I work in a like e-commerce platform, Grofers, where we have like 90 to 95% of our customers were in the mobile platform. So our main focus for the Android automation, or you can say the mobile automations, where you have to maintain the test infrastructures as well, where at initial point of time we have a Mac mini setups, and we have attached like you can say 4 to 5 devices to it, and then we were running these our UI automated scenarios on these mobile devices. But there was like a lot of issues was faced in maintaining the test infrastructure. Sometime that you have don't some of the devices get out of memory, then sometimes you face the connectivity issues while connecting with the MacBook site. So these were all the you can say the problems that we get due to the test infrastructures, and we have to spend a lot of time in managing the machines and the test device. There was a challenge in maintaining the continuous availability of the things, as because this setup was only present in the office. And as this setup was present in the office, we have the dependencies of the electricity and the internet to if something goes wrong with these things, we were not able to you can say that run our automations. And if it's a holiday, or if it is a weekend, Saturday, Sunday, then there is a problem of continuous availability, because no one is in the office and no one was able to run the test cases. And and this was the challenge that we were facing in you can say the test infrastructure. So slow execution and the failures due to test infrastructure, these were the first two problems that we want to tackle, so that we can ensure that every time we were running our UI automation suite, we get some results. So to tackle these problems, we have come up with the solution of the parallel execution that can help us to run our test cases in parallels, and it's try to reduce down the execution time of our test suites. And to tackle the problem of due to the test infrastructures, we have moved to you can say a cloud-based SaaS provider like Browser Stack and the Sauce Lab. That are the two prominent player that provides the you can say the test infrastructure. They provides the devices on the cloud, and you can run your test cases on them. So to tackle first two problems, we have like done the parallel we have made the configurations in our test automation suite to run these test cases in parallel and to solve the problem of continuous availability dependencies of our you can say the test infrastructure on our office, and now we have moved to cloud. In that way we have solved the problem that it is highly available and you can run your test automation suite at any point of time. But still the biggest problem was that we were able to solve the problems due to infrastructure, but still we need to solve the problem of the flaky test. At that point of time, what we have come up with is that why not have a, like, you can say that at that point of time we have come up with a reactive approach, that we have we have, you can say, integrated our test automation suite with the CI platforms, and we were running these test cases nightly, and we were getting the results. And first thing that we need to do while coming first thing in the morning is that we analyze those reports and was reactively fixing if we get any bugs in that. So that was the, you can say, the reactive approach for the maintenance of our UI automation suite that we have come up with, is that we have integrated with the Jenkins, and periodically we were running those test automation suite, and whenever we get any failure, we were proactively fixing those issues. That was the, you can say, the immediate solution that we have come up with. So till this point of time, the problem that we were able to solve is that we have a test automation in the place. We have solved the problem of slow test execution by running them in parallel. We have reduced the flakiness due to test infrastructure by moving our infrastructure to the cloud, as I've told, to moving to a cloud SaaS service provider browser stack. Once we have solved these two problems, we have increased the continuous availability. Now you are able to run your test automation at any point of time and any place that you want to run it. And fifth thing that we that is the reactive approach. Still I can't say that we are able to solve that problem, but at that point of time we were like happy with the solution that we have come up with. So till then, just I want to check, do anyone has any question till now before I move to the second part of it?
Hi Pramod, this is Ajay.
Yeah.
You said after integration with Jenkins also you call it as a reactive approach.
Yeah.
Why is that so?
Because it was a reactive approach, because we were running these build nightly, and once we have a failure in a place, we were analyzing those failures and then we were fixing it. It was not like we were checking. Proactive approach is that you are able to have a system in the place that identify before merging any breaking changes in your test automation, or you can say that you should have a pre-check that also checks that before merging any breaking changes in your test automation, it should be detected earlier. That approach will be proactive. Our approach was reactive, because once that breaking change has been merged in our test automation, or you can say in the product, changes were done, and then we were running our test cases and identifying those failures and fixing them. That's why I've told it as a reactive approach.
Okay, thank you.
Cool. So I guess I'm little behind the time. So let me, because it is like a big journey, I have to complete it fast. So I guess my screen is working, is visible to all again. Cool. So I'm assuming that was the first phase, or you can say the initial phase of our, you can say, the test automation in the place. But as we scale and as the number of test case grows, then we realize that few moments later, we stuck into the problem that was arises due to the scaling. As the number of test cases grows, their maintenance has been increased, and most of the time of the test automation engineers has been wasted while fixing those things, because at that point of time, you can say 1.5 years back, Grofers was doing a lot of experimentations in the features. They were doing a lot of changes with the front end UI automations, and that leads to a breakage of, you can say, the test automation, and there was a lot of false positive were in the place. So that was the one thing that we realized when we scaled. Another thing that we have really realized, that we have something, or you can say the test automation in the place for the front end, but what about the backend changes? What about the microservices? We don't have any system in the place where we can test our backend changes. In case of front end, you can say that you have like a constraint that you don't want to bug your customers with the really, you can say, a app update every single day. That's why you have like a release train in the place, and you want to release the features after 15 days or at the end of the sprint. But in case of the backend changes, where we have all the configurations in the place, where still the backend devs were releasing the things each day, and there is a lot of complexities, you can differences between testing a front end versus a back end system, as that I have depicted in this image with the mermaid. That front end part was still beautiful, but when you get the bottom of it, the backend system is much more complex, and there need to have a different test automation strategy in the place to test these backend changes. That was the two problems that we have like encountered in as we scaled. So as another code that can clearly describes what is the another set of problems, we have discussed what problems that we have in the place, but what you can say that the code from the book Scaling Done Right is that if releasing is hard, people will always find a reason not to release. And now we have like a lot of reasons were there for the dev and product to not to trust on our test automation, or you can say the UI automations in the place, that they have like takes a lot of time to run. There were a lot of false positive was there. The product and dev was not able to take the decisions every time the test automation build or the CI build that we have running these UI automations test cases were read, it was not green. So they were not able to take the decision transparently whether they want to release the things or not. There was sort of interventions that that needs to be done from the automation engineer side to ensure that the failures that we get in the test automations are alleged failures, or it's due to a script failure. So during that phase of time, most of devs and the product engineers, you can say the product managers, have traditionally lost the confidence that they have in the test automation. So as I've told that they have start losing the, you can say, the confidence in our test automation suite. So what we get back to the stage and get back to the table, and we want to find out the reasons, what are the reasons not to release. So there were the two sort of you can say agenda that we have in the place, is that first we want to get the retro of the automation process that we have set up till now. What are the optimizations that we want to do it right now with our current system that we have in the place. And the second thing is that we want to like, now we have the UI automation, that was the first project that we have done. Now we want to have like, we want to analyze the scaling problems that, or we want to come up with, now we want to come up with a test strategy that that is valid when we scale further as well. So at this point of time, we have to come up with a solution that can also be valid, or that optimum when we increase to like 10x of the users, and when we were releasing 10x, building the 10x of the features that we have in the in place in our app. So we get back to the table, we have the retro, and we were analyzing the problems. So this was the current you can say that test automation flow that we have in the place. Whenever we have a product change or whenever author writes a new test cases, we execute our test cases, we analyze the failures. If it is due to the fix broken test, then we will again execute this, fix those things and again execute this test. If after analyzing those failures, if we get that it is a legit bug, then we find the cause and fix those bugs. And the dotted line between these workflow identify the roles between the testers and the developers. Then we get to analyze by the retro is that most of the times, as I was talking about, of the tester, or you can say the automation engineers, was spent on on the maintenance, on you can say the analyzing the failures and fixing those scripts. That was the biggest problem for the test automation engineer that we get from the retro. Then at this point of time, we were not want to address the pain points of the test automation engineers only. We want to build the something, or we want to have the you can say the perspective of the devs, as well as you can say business, or you can say the product in managers. We want to come up with the test strategy that solves the pain points of dev, as well as the have the right expectation set with the business and the product. That was the another thing that we have done while we were doing the analysis and retro of our problems. So to come up with the solution is that I can start with a quote that don't spend time beating on a wall hoping to transform into a door. Why not build your own? So we at this point of time, we have come up with is that we have a different pain points of devs, because in each organization they have different set of peoples, and we want to set a you can say we want to have the clear expectations with the business, what you want to test, what is the minimum, you can say the bare of quality that you want to have in the product that is released in the productions. Now we want to come into some place where we were able to satisfy the expectations of the business, and we want to at this point of time, we want that our devs should use our test automation that is in the place, so that they can quickly verify whatever the features that they were releasing in the production is up to that quality, and whether we were able to release the things or not. At this point of time, we have come up with our set of goals that we want to have in a product, and we want to transform our test automation into a product. That's why I have quoted it, build your own. So when we get back to the round tables, and we have devs and product engineer in the place, the few goals that we have come up is that both devs and you can say product managers, the first thing that they wanted is that they want to have a stable and green pipelines without any false positive. Business has you can say that we have negotiated with the business, and they have come up with the thing is that the coverage for our test automation should include P0 and the P1 scenarios. And when we want to when we talk to the devs why they were not able to use our test automations to verify their features, they have come up with two things. One was that there was a lot of false positives. Second thing they have come up with is that they want to have a solution that can run under 10 minutes. If you are able to give a solution that can test our features within 10 minutes, then we are good to have use the test automation that is in the place. So at this point of time, as based on the goals, we have the things that we want to have a greener, more stable deployment pipelines, and we want to have a more stable ship that are fast. And we have the expectation that at least we were able to cater the coverage of all the P0 and the P1 scenarios, so that there was no sinking holes in the place that can leads to drone off our ship. So at that point of time, the solution that we have come up with, why not transform your automation suite into a test product? So how we have achieved this? So this is, you can say, give you the hint, or if anyone wants to unmute and tell me what's, you can say what's wrong, you get into, you are able to identify in this picture.
You have divided into the parts and then studied them and tried to fix the things.
Cool.
The part
Particularly, I want to check what's wrong in this the picture that is available in the screen.
Looking at the problem in a different way,
Cool. That's
different perspective. Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
It's
You are
fixing the
telling
wrong
Sriram.
things. The pyramid, test pyramid.
Yeah. That's the thing. If you see that you can say the first person is holding the map right, and the worker that has taken the map wrong, that's why we have built an inverted pyramid. Uh, So according to test pyramid, is that you can assume that at the top of the pyramid you have the UI tests in the place, then we have you can say service level unit test, or you can say integration test, then you have the unit test cases. Why I was talking that we were building the pyramid inverted is that at this point of time we have like a lot of UI test cases in the place and less number of unit test cases were there. If you are not able to relate with the test pyramid, you can assume it with the food pyramid, like at the bottom of the things, what are the things that are easily consumable and that are more healthy, that helps you to maintain or keep healthy. And at the top of the pyramid, you have like, you can say the fast food that are easy to consume, that give you instant energy, but they are in the long run, they were not that you can healthy to your systems. So I'm not getting, as I know most of all are, you can say testers, and we have the things in the place. So probably just I want to get into the test pyramid. Mostly we know about that UI tests are slow and unit test cases are fast. The cost of doing your UI automation is more. The cost of unit testing is less. That is the one thing that we already know about. But the new things that we also want to have the things in the place, that when we compare this test pyramid on the basis of test scope, UI test case provides you the most coverage, and as you get down to the unit test cases, the scope of, you can say, uh, the scope that has been tested using writing a unit test cases is less. When I talk about these things in the number of test cases, you can say the number of unit test cases are far more in the number as compared to the number of test cases that you have in the UI if you were testing the same feature or you are testing the same scenarios. And in case of unit test cases, you have to like a different bunch of people's contributing to this unit test cases. It is not that a single person can write these unit test cases in the place. So now we have like analyzed what what the traditional test pyramid says, what are the things that we are getting positively from the UI test cases, what are the things that we were lacking behind. So now we have come up with our set of solution. We like, in the picture that I have shown you of the inverted pyramids, what we have come up with is not a pyramid. We have moved to a diamond. We have the solution of our problem was diamond, because particularly this solution was based on the goals. Like we want to run our test cases in less than 10 minutes. We want to have the coverage for all the P0 and the P1 scenarios. And we want to have the most stable test cases that are not UI dependent. And you can, at this point of time, you can debate that why not you have went to the unit test case. That was the best solution that you can get it. But as I've told you that in case of the unit test cases, you want to have like more, you can buy in from, you can say the developers, and they're like, we have, at that point of time, we have like a microservice architecture for our backend services were in the place. And to like we have around like 30 to you can say 30 microservices in our backend services, and there was a huge task to like write the unit test cases at each level. So, and probably if we went with that approach, it probably has taken more time in achieving the coverage. So when I talk about why we have come up with the test diamond approach and why we have increased the number of integration test cases, so probably I will say that what type of integration tests we have come up. As we have the goal that we want to have a stable, fast running test cases, and we have to also ensure that we cover P0 and the P1 scenarios as soon as possible. So what we have come up with is that it was not an integration test. You can say that it was still the end-to-end user scenarios, but instead of using the UI automation, we were using the API automation to cover those scenarios or to test those scenarios. What were the benefits that we have got while using these automating this end-to-end scenarios using the API is that they were faster, and we were able to execute all the scenarios that we have written in the UI automation suite that was in the UI automation suite in less than 5 minutes. As they were not you can say dependent on the UI automation UI part of our product, so they were like more stable, and you can say that they don't have any synchronization issues as we faced in the traditionally UI automation. There was like UI synchronization is there, sometimes DOM element is not visible, those kind of problems were not there. And as these kind of problems were less in those cases, so we are having a low maintenance of these things. And probably as we have the main, or you can say the main reasons for moving towards API end-to-end test cases is that it was fast and it was able to give the more coverage in less number of test cases. That was the two reasons that we have come up with this approach. The second problem that we need to solve is to how we can make these our pipelines that were running the test cases more stable, more greener. So what we have come up with that we have containerized our you can say the test suites using Dockers, and we were like now more focused on maintaining our own data fixtures. Before test suite, we were creating our own test data, then we were using those in our test scenarios execution, and in the tear down we were destroying these data fixtures. So we have come up with our own set of data fixtures. And another thing that was that help us to you can say attain a greater stability is to ability to manage our own test environment. Because traditionally, if you talk about the organization, if you have a single testing environment, anybody can deploy any kind of services, and they manipulates with the data that is served on that environment. So it leads to a lot of brittle test cases because it modifies the services that has been deployed on it, or it modifies the test data. So we have used the Kubernetes to manage our own environment, and we were you can say that creating our own environment, creating our own data fixtures. Then we have containerized our test suite so that it can run on the CI platform, and we have added the scaling you can say the plugins with the Jenkins, so that if you are in case of auto scaling, if we get new slaves that don't have any dependencies of Java or Allure that help you to generate your automation report, those kind of failures were minimized, and these our pipelines were more stable. So you can say that we have named this project as Haradara, and I have also stated the objective of these things. So now we have a captain that we call it Kubernetes, that have the better idea of the Cs and that help us to maintain our test environment better. Then we have hired a Jenkins, you can say a butler that can serve a good recipe of Dockers, and we have Dockerized our test automation. So in that way, we are able to solve the things. And at the end of this Haradara project, we want to come up with a deployment pipeline that ensures that every deployment that is going in the production is tested against our test automation. So in that way, we were able to also enforcing the things that whatever the things that are coming out in the production environment is tested, and our test automation, so you can say our test automation is used as a big part of it. In that way, we were able to, you can say, the increase the value of our test automation in the place. If we talk about the risk still was there. If something gets fail, how can dev can debug it? That was the one of the risks that was still we want to solve. And the delay was that we were running the whole end-to-end environment, and that consists of 30 to 40 microservices in the place. And if some one of the microservices gets down, then it spoils the whole test environment that we have in the place.
Pramod,
So
we have 5 minutes for the talk left. We have 5 minutes for the talk left. Yeah, maybe you can.
Probably I need to have like 10 more minutes. I will quickly go through the things because a lot of things are left. Sorry, my bad. So this is, you can say, the deployment pipelines that we have come up with at the end of this suit. The next sort of problem that we have in the place is that once we have the deployment pipeline in the place, then the problem that we have faced is that whenever there is a failure in the case, dev was not able to debug the things. As dev was not able to debug the things, probably if you get any failure, there was a lot of time spent in fixing those issues. So to solve these problems, we have come up with the thing is that to come up with a debug log structure so that we can identify the issues better. We have set up a continuous feedback in the place and writing and the publishing RCS for it. This is the one of, you can say, the screenshot where we get to have the feedback from the devs. This is the RCA. The biggest advantage of writing the RCAs of having any failure in the test automation suite is that it has all the steps that somebody can follow if that problems come up again. Then we have like come up with our own set of debug log structures that can help us to debug the things better. The main things, as we have a short period of time, I'm not discussing it in detail. Probably Loki log, you can say that it is a like aggregation log structure. We have directly shared the link of these Loki logs so that if you get any failures on the basis of request ID, you have to just click on this link from the test automation suite and you get all the structures of the microservices or anything gets break in that Loki log structure. Then we have come up with the same log structures for the UI automations as well. Then till this point of time, we were able to solve the things like test automation for the backend services, fast and reliable test cases that we have in the place, and we were able to release the things in each day. The next sort of project that we have come up is that continuous delivery. To ensure the continuous delivery, our main focus was that our master should be deployable every time. Any code that is merged in master should be deployable. So to ensure that, we have come up with the things that we want to run over these test automation as a part of PR checks. The main sorry, there was a lot of disturbance. So the main problem of enabling these test cases in a PR check is that we want to spin our new environment on the fly. We want to have like a lot of, you can say, the test environment has to be in the place, and we want to make our more, you can say, test environment more stable. Then we have come up with like isolation help used to move faster. That were the things that we have come up. Isolation has helped us to reduce down the test execution time from 5 minutes to 2 minutes. Then this is, you can say that we are able to do the things running our test automation in the PR checks. This is one of the screenshot, and that is a pipeline that is running behind this webhook. The another problem that once we have all the systems in the place, we want to monitor it. That was the thing. Then we have come up with the alert and the monitoring system in the place. We have like the technology stack, Grafana and the Prometheus in the place, and we were using PagerDuty and the Ops Genie to do our automations in the place. This is the, you can say, the Grafana screenshot of our analytics that we have, where we were maintaining the stability and you can say the test scenarios execution time. The another set of problems, another goal that we have come up is that getting better each day, where we have like introduced linter checks, you can say the check style and the spot bug static analysis tool that we have come up to have the, you can say the test cases for to maintaining the better quality of our you can say the test that we have automated. And we have also come up with the test for our test automation tool that we call it as a health checks, where why not we have to wait for 2 or 3 minutes if something is breaking. We have some some test case written that can give us the earlier feedback as within 5 seconds, so we can get early feedback. That is the thing that we have come up. And these were the things were at the end of this. We have like new environment, we have isolation in the place, we have analytics, then we have the health checks in the place. The next thing that we target that we have come up is that testing is responsibility of all. The biggest challenge that we have faced in this is the adoption. Probably I want to more emphasis on the solution that we have come up. I want to tell you the solution in a short story that we have. I took a food bite, a bit dropped on the floor. My son asked, why did you drop it? I said, it was an accident. He said, you should be careful. I asked my wife why he is reacting so much. She said, because he cleaned the floor today. So basically, you can say the learning from this story is that when you are able to contribute to the things, you are more responsible towards that. If you value things more when you do it yourself. In the same story, as a child has wiped the whole floor and he was more, you can say, concerned about the cleanliness of that floor. That is the, you can say, the problem. The this story gives us the inspiration to come up with the solution of those things. Again, we get back to the things with the devs, and like we have come up with the things. We have like addressed their problems. That the problems that they have come up with is that they have like separate repo. It makes no sense to have the whole, if they want to run doing any changes in a microservices, when they need to run all the test cases, why the automation code is in different language with the source code. These were the set of problems that we have come up with. Then we have set a new set of target for us, that test code must be set with the applications with the source code. It must be in the same language as that of the source code. And test is we should be able to test the things in the complete isolation. So at that point of time, we ship was not able to solve us the problem. Now we have to like shift left and transform that ship into the submarine, because we want to get more into the depths of the sea, and we want to like test the microservices in the isolation. The solution that we have come up with is that consumer driven contract test cases. Consumer driven contract test, you can say that in this approach, consumer were defining the contracts, and we were able to test the things service A and B in isolations. That was the biggest advantage of having consumer driven contract test. And the tools that we have identified for this pact is the tool to achieve that is the pact, where the consumer were expecting the setting the expectations with the product, and generating, you can say, the in pact tool, it is called pact. Basically it's a JSON response, or you can say the mock response. But the biggest advantage of having this thing is that whatever the mocks that we were using is continuously getting validated with the provider. So while using this feature, you can ensure that you are able to validate these mocks, and whatever the mocks that you are using, you can say that is consumable by the consumers, and that is with the set expectation with the provider. This is the whole architecture of the pact. I'm not going through it as we were running late. And quickly, this is the, you can say, the current pipeline structure that we have in the Grofer is that we were running linters, then we have unit test cases in the place, then we are setting our integration test on the fly, then we have run integration test, then we have a cleanup stage. Now I quickly jump to the learnings that we get from this Grofer's journey. And first learning that I got to is that if you automate a mess, you get an automated mess. That is the learning that we get from our first project, that was UI automation. The second one was that first do it, then do it right, then do it better. That is the second learning that we get when we were doing Haradara, and we have come up with our own set of approach. The third thing is that you have to create the value of your test automation in the place. That's why you have to transform your test suite in a product, and you can assume dev as your consumers, and they should be able to consume that they were able to get the value of your test automation suite. And the fourth thing is that you can't act as a gatekeeper. Testing is responsibility, if not of a testing team, it has to be the responsibility of the all. That's why we have come up with the things like solving the problems for the dev, and we want devs to contribute more to the test automation that we have in the place. Thank you guys, that was the thing that I need to complete. Probably I will say I have complete few slides little bit faster. Probably if you have any doubt, we can take it in the question and answers.
Yeah. So thank you, Pramod. I think it was a really good session. I love the animations along and the way you did your storytelling. There were comments from various attendees as well in terms of the well-crafted session that you had. So I'll just jump on to, since we are running out of time, into a few questions from the audience itself.
Yeah.
There was one question from Hani Chawla, and he mentioned like how much time you took for Grofers to reach to shift left pack testing from UI testing.
Yeah, you can say 1.5 years.
Okay. There was one question from Arvind. He said, could you please tell the approximate percentage of API and UI automation achieved in the overall end-to-end automation journey of Grofer?
Percentage you want to cover with in terms of coverage? Probably I will answer it that we were not bothered about so much about the coverage, because we celebrate the happiness of having less number of test cases, but our greater preference was having the greener pipelines, and we should be able to take the decision based on these test cases for in terms of, you can say that we have sit with the product and come up with that these are the 150 scenarios that needs to be automated to ensure that our you can say most of the features or the most of the regressions that we have in Android app working fine. So you can say that the coverage of our API integration test mostly consists of P0 and the P1 scenarios that we have for our app.
Cool. That's great. Yeah, I'll just take one question for the audience. Anyone who wants to ask can unmute themselves. Maybe we'll take one more question before we move on to the next session.
Just one question. So since Grofer has multiple partners
I have one
for
quick
payments,
question.
so how did Grofers handle security testing?
Yeah, for the security testing, you can say that is another set of things. Yes, I want to give for the security testing, we have also come up with the same set of things. The same journey that we have for the test automations, we have for the security engineers as well. You can say that we were running like Dependabot. You can say we have like linters checks. We have static analysis tool like SonarCube that are running as part of PR checks that are able to detect the things that were when you raise any PR to the master branch. Then at the end we have like you can say external source vendor for performing you can say pen testing that we have. Now we have like another set of security in the place. You can say the container security where we have like a hardening of Docker images, and we work on those kind of things. So if you want to have those kind of journey, that will be a separate things, and we have done a lot of things. Probably I will share one article with you where we have how we have achieved security in our Grofer systems.
Okay.
Thanks, Pramod.
Thank you, Pramod. Thanks. I know there are a lot of questions, but we are running out of time. So yeah, you can connect with Pramod even after this session, or get in touch with us. We can connect.
We can still take probably just maybe one or two quick questions more.
Okay, cool. Yeah. So since we have another few more minutes, maybe. Are there any other open questions anyone wants to?
Yeah. So how did you do all this in just 1.5 years?
How I have done it? Probably if I will say that we have the key learning that we have is probably that first do it, then do it right, then do it better, because first we have started with the UI automation. Is probably that you have to be like not stick to your solution that much. You have to be like logical, and you have to get the things like when we were about 100 or 150 UI test cases, we get to know about the scaling issues. Then we have to completely switch back to the new project that we have come up with, is like to Haradhara. Then we have the objective. Then we have run it for 4 months. We have completed Haradhara project. Then we get a next set of problems. Probably you can say that we have the quarterly OKR in the place, and we have the proper you can say that we pick the OKRs, what are the problems that we need to solve in this quarter. And probably if you divide the problems and go by problems, you get to tends to reach a solution that solve most of the problems. In that way you can say that. And probably if you want to check me on the, you can say that the period of the project that we have, like you can say that most of the projects that we have achieved is in mostly in 3 to 4 months.
Okay, I just have one more doubt. Why did you name the project Haradhara?
Haradhara mostly means greener pipeline. That is the thing that we have come up with. Like everyone was raising the problem why your pipeline is not green. It's always time is red, whether it due to test script failure or anything else. And everyone raising a questions that we want to have a greener pipeline. Based on that, we were able to take the decision that whether we want to release the things in the production or not. That's why Haradhara is, you can say, a synonym in Hindi for greener pipelines, greener deployment pipeline.
Good question. You and I had that nice name actually.
Thank you.
I had one question for Pramod.
Yeah.
How would you categorize the failures? Because when the test suite grows, right? So you might have around 500 automation scripts, or maybe around 500 API tests. Okay. When the failures happens, how do you know whether it is due to DOM elements or API response, or whether it is how would you quickly handle the maintenance? Basically, my question.
Yeah. For solving the maintenance problem, I will say that the best thing that help us with is to have the debug log structure that I have discussed. That can clearly get you the point that why you are getting that failure. I want to get into the debug log structure that I have. Just a second.
If time is running, you can share the details later also, so that I don't.
Yeah, probably I will say that you have to have a debug log structure that clearly get you to the root cause of the things. That is, I will say that this is the thing that we have come up with, that if you want to analyze the things, if you are running your automation test suite, then you have to like the curl request that you are hitting in the place, so that you can easily if you want to reproduce that thing, you are able to reproduce those API. You want to have the API failed API response in the place that you want to have displayed as a part of you can say the debug log structure. Then you have to have the aggregator log structure in the place, the link where you can go through all the you can trace passes of your microservices based on the request ID. Then you have like, you want to debug the things particularly based on the users, then you have to have phone number in the place. Then you have the assertion failure message based on you should have the proper handling, exception handling or error handling in your test automation, so that if you have any failure due to script or anything, that is represented in this form of like in assertion failure message. So in that way, probably I will say that having a better debug log structure that help you to decrease the maintenance of the things.
Okay, thank you, Pramod, and thanks to take a few more extra questions. I think this was really insightful. Yeah, people can connect with Pramod after this session. So thank you for this wonderful session and sharing the knowledge with us today. Thank you, Pramod.